Welcome to the Cashflow Ninja, the podcast sharing how to create and grow income streams and manage, multiply, and protect your wealth in the new economy. Are you tired of trading your time for money? Do you desire freedom today instead of retirement in 10, 20, or 30 years? I'm MC Laubscher, and this is the Cashflow Ninja. Hello, Cashflow Ninjas. MC Laubscher here, and welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Ninja. I have a great show for you today. In today's show, we're going to look at how to create Bulletproof Cashflow. My guest in this episode is Agostino Pintus. Agostino is a multifamily investor, syndicator, and entrepreneur with more than 15 years of experience in real estate. He currently oversees strategic partnerships, capital development, and platform development for Realty Dynamics Equity Partners, an investment firm specializing in multifamily acquisition and asset management services. He's also the subject of the Bulletproof Multifamily Mindset Show, a series highlighting topics every multifamily investor should know to build their success, as well as the host of the Bulletproof Cashflow podcast, a show focused on interviewing the top experts in real estate and the mindset required to build success, all of which can be found on iTunes, YouTube, and Facebook. If you've not, by the way, checked out my new podcast, Cashflow Investing Secrets, I would highly recommend that you do that. It's a shorter show, 10 minutes or less, where I share one concept and or idea at a time, what I've learned from interviewing over 500 Cashflow Ninjas. You could check out the show on your favorite podcast, video, and live streaming platform. We also have an investment group and community for accredited investors. If you're interested to join the group, please visit CashflowNinjaInvestorsNetwork.com. And you can also stay informed of everything happening around and inside Cashflow Ninja by joining our Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and type in Cashflow Ninja Community and you'll find the group. My friend Brian Page has created a cash flow machine generating over $100,000 in 6 months without owning any real estate. His system consists out of renting properties from property owners and renting them out on Airbnb. His system is so simplistic, it can be managed by virtual assistants and yet so effective and powerful that it predictably generates cash flow every month. Brian and I are hosting a webinar where he shares his system and how it generated over $100,000 in 6 months for him personally. You can access this life-changing webinar at cashflowninja.com/BNB. This is one of the greatest cash flow opportunities I've seen since I've started my podcast. Again, the URL is cashflowninja.com/BNB. Agostino, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for allowing me to come on. Greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, so awesome to see you again. Had a lot of fun meeting you and chatting with you at a conference that we were at, a workshop. It was a lot of fun. For my listeners that's not familiar with you and what you do, can you please share a little bit about your background and journey with them?
Absolutely. So my name is Agostino Pintus. I am the host of Bulletproof Cashflow, and we're also part of a group that does deal syndications, right? Realty Dynamics. And I was the young kid that really wanted to be an entrepreneur my entire life, right? At 9 years old, I started writing code, and I knew that this is going to be my way to start my own company. I'm going to be a developer. I'm going to work in IT, and I'm going to just be the best developer and technologist I could possibly be. And that's what I really aimed for. But instead of following the entrepreneurial route, I ended up going to corporate America. And because of that drive and ambition I had as a kid, I was able to rise to the ranks fairly quickly. By the time I was like 27, 28 years old, I was already leading very large IT teams. And by 2006, I'm a CIO. I'm running some large IT group, like global IT, and helped take a company public. Some really good success in my early 30s doing all that. And I'm thinking everything's going great. I got the nice car. I got the houses. I got multiple cars. I had a little portfolio that I started building of real estate. And the funny thing is, I had no idea why I was doing it. It was like a friend of mine said, hey, you should buy real estate. And we were so flushed with cash because we just went public. I'm like, okay, sure, why not? So I started buying houses, single families and small multifamily, right? Until one day, boss comes into my office, hands me the box, put your stuff in the box, get out, you're done, right? And it was at that point that I felt like an absolute failure. It's one of those things that I really worked so hard to help make this company be the leader in the industry, and they still are today. And I'd worked so hard to do that. And I had a lot of emotionally invested in this business, and it felt kind of like a kick in the stomach to suddenly say, all right, get out. You have no bearing here whatsoever. Get lost, So from there, though, kicked off the 10 dark years is what I call it. And in those 10 dark years, I'm scrambling to try to find a job. I'm jumping from job to job to job. Either I'm landing at companies that totally suck, which is plenty of those out there. Yeah. I'm either doing that, or I am trying to find these short-term gigs. I'm sending out 500 resumes a week. I swear, easily, right? Yeah. 500 resumes a week just to take. And if you got an email address, you're getting a resume. Like, I don't care. I was sending it to everybody because I was always itching for that next thing, right? I lost my entrepreneurial way. But it wasn't until I heard about this deal syndication model back in 2016. It wasn't even that long ago. And a friend of mine who's a real estate attorney told me about it. And I'm like, raising money, pooling money from other people, going out to buy these multifamily assets, and why the banks like these assets and why investors like these assets, all the tax benefits, all of the gains that you get from it. It made total sense to me. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to stop the madness and focus on that. That's what I'm going to be doing from now on. And part of it was I had to make that decision to really decide that I was going to actually do something, right? And I think, and that's part of the problems that I had before in those 10 dark years, was that there's no decisions being made. I was like lost in a stream of consciousness, so to speak, right? Mm-hmm. But once I decided, then I committed to that decision. Now I see the success, right? And it's just been a euphoric ride, getting from a point where I'm scrambling to find a job, or sitting at a Starbucks for 9-10 hours a day, sending out resumes, worried about, oh my God, I need a job. Otherwise I feel useless. And that's how most people are, right? That's how we're trained. We're trained that if you don't have a 40-hour job, you're a useless person. And that's totally not the case at all. There's something to say about living life on your own terms and living life the way you want to live your life. And that's what I do now. And I'll tell you what, it's nothing short of amazing, man. Just love it. Love it.
Yeah, I think we all can relate. I mean, I can relate to that too, when there are parts, if I look back, where I wasn't living intentionally enough, right? You kind of like, and when you said that, I'm like, man, I went through that too, where you get clobbered a couple of times.
But that's what it took, right? That's what it took. Yeah. It took getting punched in the head. But I guess, and you know what though? I think that what really hit home though is that with these guys, this company specifically, I remember, early on and when I started with the company, they would often comment, oh yeah, we made a huge upgrade when we got rid of the last guy, and what a great job I was doing for them. And I helped change the way they do business. That's my influence on this publicly traded company. It was a big deal, right? From that to now you're out the door. It makes again, going with the flow, right? That's what I did. It was my fault for leaving my future in the hands of these people that didn't really care about anything but themselves, right? I'm not angry. It helped me out. You know what? I would not trade it for anything on this planet. I wouldn't do it. It's awesome now.
That's a huge lesson for our listeners. Like, every single time you just go with the flow and you do what the herd's doing, and you do it and you live unintentionally, the results, and I just reflect back on my own life, it's not been good. Yeah. It's totally not been good. So you're originally from Canada.
That's right.
Is that where you started with the real estate, or was that when you came to the U.S. that you dabbled in the real estate?
Yeah. So no, I started. It's funny. I grew up in a duplex. Right. My parents owned a duplex, and we rented out the back to other people with the intent of raising money. So I never really thought about this until now. So I've been a multifamily pioneer.
That's right.
Not really, though. Not really. But I had no idea about the concept. It didn't really click. But it didn't really start until very, very late. I was living in Canada, went to school in the States. I put myself through school. I did my undergrad, 2 master's degrees, all on my own. I financed everything with credit cards and working 2 jobs to pay them off a semester at a time. So I'm not afraid to work hard. I was used to doing it that way, like basically working 2 jobs to pay for the previous semester and just charge up the cards all over again. That's how I basically financed my way through school, right?
Yep.
So, but it wasn't really, like I said, until I started, by the time I rose to the ranks and became a CIO with this company, that I realized, like, there's this whole real estate thing. I get cash flow from it. And I thought about this. I'm like, if I'm able to get enough houses, I can protect myself in case things go sideways at this business. Yeah. Now, like I said, at the time, everything was going swimmingly. I was getting paid. I had the fancy cars. I had the big house. So everything was fine. But I was scared. I was scared to death that something was going to happen, because up until that point, there's always, even though I was I've rose to the ranks, I've watched other people just get gone. You're just gone the next day, here one day, gone the next. That's how corporate America works. Again, I'm not angry with it. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
And it can happen to anybody. And I knew that it could happen to me. And that's exactly what happened. My problem was I was unable to buy fast enough to get me through the recession, which is roughly when things started going sideways for me. It was in 2008.
Yep.
Right. So when 2008 hit, it was really, really bad for me. So that didn't help either, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah. And that's when the syndications kind of come into play too, where you can leverage resources and form a team to kind of scale up. Just to touch on some of the lessons that you learned from the last downturn, what are some of the things that you're cognizant of now that you learned during that time and taken with you?
Yeah, buy for cash flow. There's a reason why we call our show Bulletproof Cashflow, and that's because we don't buy an appreciation. We don't buy speculation of anything. We don't do like this Bitcoin stuff. I get people hitting me up all the time to do Bitcoin. I'm not sure why, but it's all based on speculation, right?
Yeah.
I'm hearing about guys that are coming into my market here in Cleveland, and they're paying $60,000, $70,000 a door when average rents are $500 a month. Here, newsflash, guys, it won't get. There's no way to support that.
Yeah.
There's no way that $500 a month will support $70,000 a door. People are paying it, right? It's dangerous, very, very dangerous, right? We don't buy that way. We buy value add stuff. It's all we've ever done. People are buying. There are people that are buying in this market and other markets too. They're buying all in appreciation. That's a huge lesson. I think that's where people got clobbered in 2008. Was they kept thinking that this thing's going to keep on going up and up and up and up, and eventually it will stop. It's going to stop. That's probably the biggest lesson that I can tell the listeners about, is that it has to cash flow no matter what. And that's again why I like this market. When Ohio took a hit back in 2008, the rents went down just a little bit. The values went down just a little bit. It isn't like in, say, Chicago, where something was once $100K, now it's divided in half. Now it's 50 for the same thing, right? It didn't go down that way here. It might have went down, the cost per door might have went down $5,000, $2,000, something like that. Mm-hmm. And your rents might go down the same amount anyway.
Yeah.
Right? So, and you're still making money. You're still covering the note. Maybe your return isn't as rich, but you know what? You're able to hold on to the asset, and you're able to pay back your investors and keep everybody happy. Even in the mad downturn that was 2008, which is absolutely terrible. But that's probably the biggest lesson, is always buy for value. Don't be stupid about buying stuff just to get into something. It's just ridiculous.
Yep. Absolutely. And of course, yeah, and cash flow. So you're in the syndication business primarily in the Cleveland market there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What are some of the things that is attractive about that market? What are some of the things that you can share just with our listeners that's not familiar with Ohio and with Cleveland, besides the Browns and let LeBron James played for the Cavaliers there, right?
That's right. It's funny because Cleveland is still somewhat of a secret, right? It's So like I just touched on a bit ago, in that last recession, Cleveland held its own, right? Many of these Midwest cities, they do just that. Yeah. But one of the biggest things that investors want to, one of the reasons why they go into a city is for jobs, right? They want to make sure there's plenty of employment, because where there's employment, there's activity. Where there's activity, there's money, right?
Yep.
You go downtown right now, and I think we were talking in the green room, and we were talking about how you came in for a family event. There's not really a whole lot going on. I was actually talking to a friend of mine. A couple friends. They own a construction company, and they own some very significant buildings downtown.
Yeah.
5 years ago, the place was a ghost town. You don't want to walk in the city back then. Now it's thriving. There's people everywhere. It's just, there's a lot of commerce. Wherever there's commerce, there's density, there's money, there's jobs. That's what it means.
Yep.
And aside from that, the types of jobs, primarily healthcare. Cleveland Clinic is down there, right? Mm-hmm. As long as there's people, there's going to be a need for health, no matter what, right? So that's, it's very different than some other places where they rely on, say, manufacturing, for instance, right? But in this case, there's plenty of that going on. The Cavaliers are still a winning team. They're still doing very well for themselves. And Dan Gilbert, he believes in them too. That he's so much so that he's actually building some large multifamily projects downtown as well, right? And so are we. So it's one of those things that there's a lot of drive and a lot of jobs going into the city right now. It's just people aren't even aware of it, though. That's the thing. They're right now they're concentrated on North Carolina, South Carolina. They're concentrated on Texas. I think is another big market. A lot of money from the coasts are coming into those places, which is fine. I mean, those are great markets, but one that's still somewhat sleepy and quiet is Cleveland. People aren't even aware of it.
And what a how can I say, what a busy city that was at one stage in the US, right?
Yeah.
It's quite amazing to see some of the older cities that used to play such a big part of the framework of the United States of connecting, East and the Midwest to the West, right? There's obviously a lot of reasons why it kind of changed, but it's great to see that these cities, I mean, you walk around in Cleveland, the buildings are spectacular. Yeah. Some of the stuff that's downtown there. And you could see that there was just so much going on at one stage. So it's really exciting to see that there's a lot of jobs moving back there. And there's a lot of other developments and complementary businesses now opening up because of all the people moving there for the jobs.
That's right. It's absolutely huge. I mean, there's still plenty of vacancies down there. And however, the people that own these vacant buildings, the ones you're talking about, the people that own them, they're aware. They know what's going on. So, finding the value at this point is becoming a little tough to do.
Yeah.
But they're still out there. They're still out there. It takes a little more effort to find them. But I'm very thankful that to be here, because there's so much going on here, so much positive growth going on in a place like this. Now some people say that they can be anywhere on the planet. Anybody can be anywhere on the planet. I don't mind being here. There's a lot of good stuff happening. It's a great place.
Now, from an investor's perspective, is there a framework that you use, a checklist when you guys are evaluating deals? What does a good deal look like for you guys? And once you find one, what's your strategy? What is your secret sauce?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, aside from looking for the jobs, looking for crime stats and things like that, the basic demographic, which most syndicators are looking for, deal structure can vary depending on the deal, right? So, for instance, a typical deal structure might be like a 70-30 split in favor of the investor. We're targeting a minimum of 10% cash on cash return. That's the minimum. That's what we usually tell investors, but it's between you and me, MC. It's usually a little more, but I can't really say that. But 15% IRRs is the minimum too that we're also targeting. We look to do a refi in somewhere between years 2 and 5. In that refi, we're looking to return at least 60% of the investor's principal with a 10-year hold, right? So it's a plain vanilla, very straightforward type of syndication model. 8% pref, 50-50 split afterwards. That's after the 8% is paid, So it's very simple, no smoke and mirrors, nothing crazy about how we do our setups. It's very, very easy. So, and like I said, in this market right now, to find a nice, decent property, a good Class C that's performing, I don't know, 32, 33 a door. Your rent's going to be sitting at anywhere between, 580 to 620 in that neighborhood, for a good working Class C property, that thing will perform just fine. Good, strong cash flow. And the good thing is that even when there is an economic slowdown, which people keep saying it's coming, it'll still perform just fine. I mean, we're talking $600 a month in rent. I mean, it's not like it's all that much, right?
Yeah.
And the way that these people live, it's not a terrible place. It's a fine older building. Right. Looks fine. You wouldn't mind living there, And that's why it's just a great place. It's a great place to do this type of asset class. It just is.
You're listening to the Cashflow Ninja, the show helping people all over the world create monthly cash flow and achieve freedom today, not in 10, 20, 30, and or 40 years. This is the show where cash is not king, but cash flow is king. We will be right back after a word from our sponsors. My friend Dave Zook from The Real Asset Investor says you can be conventional or you can be wealthy. Pick one. The Real Asset Investor team creates value for investors looking for higher yield returns from ATM machines and self-storage investments. Their syndications offer attractive investment opportunities that produce strong cash flow, equity growth, huge tax incentives. They are truly passive and managed by a world-class team. To learn more about the exciting investment opportunities the Real Asset Investor offers, such as their ATM and self-storage syndications, please visit cashflowninja.com/Real Asset Investor. MC Lampshire, the creator of the Cashflow Ninja and Cashflow Coach at Producers Wealth, where we help our clients integrate infinite banking with their business and investments. To learn how you can create your own banking system to turbocharge your investments and business in 30 days or less, go to yourownbankingsystem.com. That's yourownbankingsystem.com. You're listening to the Cashflow Ninja, the show helping people all over the world create monthly cash flow and achieve freedom today, not in 10, 20, 30, and or 40 years. This is the show where cash is not king, but cash flow is king. Now let's return to our interview. And the cost of living is also not that high in Cleveland itself, right? Yeah. Maybe you can speak to that, because some folks hear $500 a month. It's like, no. It's a little bit different. This is such a big country for our international listeners that's out there. The United States is just enormous. I mean, you don't realize how big it is until you travel around from one city to another. And there's a lot of different markets and places, but maybe speak to the cost of living in there. It's still very, very affordable for folks to live there, even though there's a ton of people moving there for all of these jobs. Yeah. Well, I'll offer the listeners some perspective as well. So as you pointed out, I'm originally from Canada, and I've had the pleasure of living everywhere from, let's see here, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, New York City, Baltimore. Where else have I lived? Indianapolis, of course, here. This is lived, not visited. Lived. Yep. And I'm missing some places too. I'm missing other places, right, that have actually lived, right? So living in New York, for instance, has its own
its own challenges, right? Aside from the taxation, for instance, on in your car, right? In terms of getting all these tags and getting all that, we don't have that here in Ohio. Just, I mean, you have to get tags, but that's about it. The cost of living here for food, for clothing, for all those things, again, much lower here to begin with, let alone the taxation rates are much lower here too, right? Compared to other places that I've lived. It's also fairly landlord friendly. I mean, not as landlord friendly as say as a Texas, but still landlord friendly. Still not bad, you know? Yeah. So, I mean, all that equates to an easier time to do business, right? It's much easier because, again, if it were hard to be a landlord here, then you have to build all those costs into the rent, right? That's the thing. I mean, ultimately, if it's a pain for me to turn these units because the city's putting up a fight every time I want to evict someone for not paying the rent, I got to take all that and build it right back into the rent, right? But because it's so much easier to do business here, I don't have to do all that. Right. And here, there's certain submarkets. Right now, we're only buying in primary and secondary markets. So it's going to be basically Cleveland and Akron. You know, that's where I'm buying right now. Akron is actually even more landlord friendly than Cleveland is. And typically, depending on where you go in Akron, the rents may actually be a little more. You know, so there's a little deal that we bought in a place called Cuyahoga Falls. Beautiful little deal. It's 76 units, paid only $3 million for it. I mean, you can't beat that. You just can't beat it. It's a C-class property in a B-class area. Beautiful deal. Beautiful deal. Love it. Love that deal. So, and again, a lot of activity, and it's very easy for me to evict people if I wanted to, and not have to build those costs in. The cost of water, utilities, all that is far less expensive too. It's just less expensive to live here overall compared to a place like New York City or a Florida or even Baltimore for that matter, because I lived there for a short time. In Baltimore, I wouldn't consider like a place, a destination spot.
Right. And I also just want to put in perspective, it's so funny that you bring up the car tags and stuff for your car in New York City. So for our international listeners out there, it's like $20 plus just to go from New Jersey through the toll, basically into Manhattan. And then, by the way, you get hit on the way out as well. So you're looking at like 40 plus. I don't even remember what the last time I checked it, but it's like 40 plus bucks just to go in and out of Manhattan. Right. And then you've got to get hit up for parking, which is not cheap by any means or cost affordable. So it's interesting that you brought that up, because I was like, yeah, that's one of the big cities that you totally get hit just by bringing a car into the city, right?
Right. And then you have the time, because when you're sitting behind the wheel for an hour to get through the tunnel, sometimes an hour to get through the Lincoln Tunnel, that's time that you're losing in terms of productivity. People seem to forget that. That's time that you're never going to get that time back, ever. Right. There's not enough money on this planet that'll buy you back time. Right? None. And you're wasting it in a tunnel, right? And you're losing productivity. So it's like, and when I used to live there, I remember when I took the tunnel for the first time through there, I paid $20. I'm like, oh my God, this is insane, right? And then they get you on the way back. I know it's only $40, but like I said, I mean, that's just one small example. It's death from 10,000 cuts is what it is over there, And hey, listen, I love New York. And there's days I really, really miss it, but you know what? I'm fine being here for the time being. I'll visit. I'm going to visit New York. Is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, and I think like a good lesson here for listeners too is to put yourself in the position of the people that is renting your apartments, right? And think about these little things, and that in the markets that you're in the markets that you look at. You are like very busy. You're flying around to speaking at a lot of events, have had a lot of success. And again, it's nothing comes easy, like you said beforehand too, right? It's not rainbows and unicorns. What are some of the things that are working in your life personally and in business, and why do they work?
This is going to sound so cliche, but the daily reading, of applying your time to actually read and take in new information. I think that for many of us, And I was like the same way too, up until several years ago. After college, we put the books down, pencils down, everyone.
Yep.
Now you're going to go work at this job that you hate for the next 40 years.
Yep.
Right. That's what, don't read any more books. You might read some crappy, newspaper that feeds your mind with garbage.
Yep.
The self-development is stopped, right? We stop reading books. We passively listen to podcasts, and I have a podcast too. So it's very different than actively listening and really engaging with what the listeners are saying, what the host is saying, and really absorbing it. I'm saying like applying and gaining new knowledge. That has tremendously changed my life. I cannot stress enough that the study of psychology, of sales, nothing to do with real estate. Yep. I mean, I did study that as well, but understanding the human aspect, coming from a guy that did a lot of IT stuff, and my background is engineering of all things, so it's very cold and machine-like, so to speak, and reintroducing the human element again, that totally changed my life. That totally changed my life right there, and acquiring new information. Reading books. As a matter of fact, we have a book list that if you text books to a number, we'll talk about that later. I'll give you the book list that I started off with, and it keeps growing too. So these are books that changed my life, and I often, what else I've done is I've taken these same books. I actually have a library that I'm building for my son. So when he gets older, he won't have to go through the same thing I did. It's like the book's already set aside for him,
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's probably the one thing that and of course writing out my affirmations, visualizing what my future is, in the present, and that's where people don't do enough of that. I have a vision board here in my studio right now. I got a vision board right here to my right, and I look at this vision board every single day, and I take it and I put myself in those scenarios. We have the villa in Colombia. We have the nice cars. We have the material aspects. I have my time. Again, you can never get back your time. That's probably the biggest thing that I can stress to all your listeners. We often live like we have an unlimited amount of time, and we don't have time. We're running out.
And that's how true wealth is measured, right? In time.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Warren Buffett can't buy any more time.
That's right. And he was what, 93 years old, I think, 94 years old or something.
It's the sad reality of all of this.
Yeah.
Him and Charlie Munger, it's like they can't take their money and exchange that for time.
That's right. That's right.
So they got like another 10, 15, 20 years.
And they got to make the most of it. And that's the thing though, guys, we are all running out of time. And this is why it's like I was sold the same bag of goods that many of the listeners were sold. You have to you go to you're going to sit down at this desk as a child, and you're going to shut up. You're going to learn you're going to read this textbook. Don't make any mistakes. Keep your mouth quiet, and don't talk to anybody. Right? It's ridiculous, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. And most of it looks like prisons, right? Yeah.
Drive by, there's actually a guy that posted a video of it. Like basically guess if it's a school or a prison. And most of the stuff people get wrong. They're like, no, that kind of looks like a prison. No, that's actually a school. Yeah. But so one of the concepts that I love too is Tony Robbins talks about that decade in a day kind of concept, right? The collapsing time, and books is a very good way of doing that, because you basically download 10, 15, 20 years, maybe even more of knowledge of a particular person. You have the ability to download that information just by consuming that book and studying that book. Mentors is another one. So when you got into syndication and you got studying and you were active in real estate networks and meetups and all of that kind of stuff, can you speak to the role of mentorship and the impact that that's had on your journey?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So it's funny because when this attorney friend told me about this whole syndication concept, he was not an SEC attorney. He just was aware of it because he's an attorney. It's usually attorneys are aware of other subject matter, and I had to figure it out on my own. So I turned to Sam Zell, and Robert Kiyosaki. I chose two mentors and only two mentors. I didn't jump from podcast to podcast, from book to book to book to book. I didn't do any of that stuff. I focused on two guys, and I tried to find as much as I could, or at least until I think I got enough. Then I switched it to two new mentors, right? And at first, it wasn't to learn syndication as much as it was to learn the mindset. The mindset is far more important than the syndication aspect. The syndication is just rules, right? Yeah. You can call your SEC attorney and they'll give you the various options of how you the same way we set up our structure ours. Ours, again, very plain Jane, very vanilla, no secrets, nothing, most of the popular syndicators, they do the same thing we do, right? Nothing crazy. Yeah. That part's easy. The hard part is the mindset. And that's what a good mentor is going to help reinforce. So we reinforce that in our program as well. We try to get people to change their vision. I mean, there's one of our students. He is a big shot, high level guy, C-level guy at a very prominent company here in Cleveland. I can't disclose any information because he's the only guy that works at a very, very big company of 10,000 plus employees, right? And he's a C-level guy.
Yeah.
He's got the money. He's got the smarts. Why am I talking to him, right? It's because he didn't have the mindset. So I helped him get the mindset. I helped him build his confidence. And I was calling on brokers. He just put an offer in a deal just yesterday. His first deal. So we'll see if he gets it or not, right? But he would not have been able to do that without a mentor like me, basically help pushing him along to do that. And the need for mentors is so huge, but they don't have to be an actual person. I mean, and that's where it comes down to what I said earlier is that making that decision and committing to that decision. I committed. So for me, I had no other choice, right? I had to do something because I had the box. I'm done. I'm working for these crappy companies, and now I'm back out in the wilderness. I can either send out resumes for the rest of my life, or I can actually take a stand and do something. And I trained like hell, man. That's how I did it. I just trained. That's how I had to do it. And like I said, I think that the big part of it is that I focused on two mentors. That's it. Just two. Two's the maximum, in my opinion. Learn everything I could, switch to two new ones. Then I think after I did that, then I focused on syndicators, specifically syndicators, right? We have a great podcast. You have a great podcast. I mean, find somebody, anybody. I mean, I go into some of the technical aspects of syndication on ours. Yeah. You don't have to. I mean, you can learn any which way you want. Some people learn from different ways from different people, and some people might not like my podcast, or like your podcast. Super. They don't like the sound of my voice. I don't know, but whatever. Find two. That's all I'm saying. Find two and make a decision and learn as much as you can. Mentors is an amazing way to do it.
Absolutely. Now, our core message in our show is to leave our families, communities, and the world better than we found it by passing down a mindset, values, and principles to future generations, not just money. So if you cannot pass on any money to future generations, and we're only allowed to pass on 3 principles to them to build wealth and achieve happiness and success, what would they be?
I would say mine are very simple. The first one is just applying some integrity, and by integrity, meaning self-integrity, that you're true to yourself. You're true to, if you make promises to yourself, you keep those promises. And the same thing goes to the people you communicate with on the outside world, outside of your own mind.
Yep.
Where if you say you're going to call someone back, call them back. Whether it's deliver good news or bad. If you say you're gonna take care of a problem, take care of an issue, take care of that problem, take care of that issue. Make sure you follow up the way you're supposed to follow up. But that integrity is something that is very, very hard to gain and very, very easy to lose. And people see it. That's the social currency that many people totally underestimate. Secondarily, there's the famous president, trust but verify. In our world,
yep,
and especially in the world of real estate, unfortunately, that integrity that I just mentioned is sometimes hard to come by. So you really have to trust what they're saying, trust what the seller is saying, and trust what people are telling you, but always verify what it is that they're saying too. That's why you perform your diligence. You really you really have to get them to earn your trust, right? The same thing goes not only with just buying a building, same thing goes with your partnerships and with your friends. It's that part is all encompassing. And, I learned early on in my life as a young man that I used to give away my trust very, very easily, as somewhat naive, maybe as a naive Canadian, I don't know, but, people see it and take advantage of it. So you have to just watch it, trust, but verify. And then third, you know what? I would say that for me personally, I want to leave a legacy, right? So it's much different than what most people on your show probably say, is that I want my sons' to know my name, right? To build something that big, you got to work your butt off. You have to, right? And I'm laying out the entire infrastructure to do that. We're doing the YouTube videos, we're doing the podcasts, now we're getting into books, we're getting into other media. And I'm not doing it not only to help other people and help investors know who we are and understand what we're doing. It's a playbook. It's an instruction manual for my son is what it is. I hope that he wants to do this, because this is a lot of fun. But it's an instruction manual, right? And imagine having your dad tell you how to build this business. How cool would that be, right?
Yep. But
the ultimate point of that is to have a vision, to have something that's so big that will keep you motivated. That's what it is, because if your vision and your dreams are too small, it's not going to get you motivated to get out of bed in the morning, and that's the thing. Right now we're motivated just to survive for the most of the 40-hour work week people, you're motivated because if you don't get to work, someone's going to point their finger in your face and fire you. Right? But if you have something that's so big, that is so drastic, that's life-changing, oh yeah, you're going to get out of bed. You're going to keep building, and it's going to be awesome.
Absolutely. And that's when I remember you and I connected through that conversation, because we both have the same mindset, as in, even my other show, Cashflow Investing Secrets, is kind of chopping it down in 10 minutes, but it's all it's an instruction manual, as you said, right? Yep. For my kids as well. Where can listeners learn more about you? Where can they follow you? Where can they reach out to you? And I know you've got an ebook that you wanted to share with them as well. Where can they get a hold of you and all of the resources that you have?
Yeah, absolutely. So bulletproofcashflow.com. You can subscribe to our channel there. We have a daily newsletter that goes out. We also on Facebook. We have a group there too, so go ahead and subscribe to that. We have a Facebook page. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Instagram. Everything's at Bulletproof Cashflow. And like you said, we're giving away an ebook. It's a free ebook on how to talk to brokers. For some of the listeners out there, maybe they're just beginning. They're a little bit skittish about talking to a broker. And this is just it's a high-level guide and what you can do to help overcome some of those issues and maybe get a phone call back. Yep. So if they text FREEDOM to 216-777-2084, along with your name and email address, then we'll send out this ebook to you. And then the list of books that I mentioned earlier that changed my life anyway, if you text books along with your name and email address, that same phone number, 216-777-2084, we'll go ahead and send you the link for that as well. And we're adding books to that one all the time. So as a list gets updated, we'll be sure to send out updates on that as well. So yeah, it's going to be two good things that I hope that your audience really gets a kick out of.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing those. And thank you so much again for coming on the show and sharing your journey and your knowledge and providing so much value for my listeners. It's been a blast connecting with you in person and having you on the show, my friend. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, man.
Life settlement investments have allowed financial and banking institutions to not only buy their equity contractually, but also diversify their capital from any economic, market, and geopolitical risk. It's been part of the billion-dollar blueprint followed by institutional investors. And if you're an accredited investor, you can also now participate in this vehicle with enormous growth potential. You can watch an informational webinar presented by one of the premier organizations providing life settlement investments, Penumbra Solutions, at cashflowninja.com/life settlements. Thank you again for joining me on the Cashflow Ninja. If you like what you hear and appreciate what we're trying to build here, please subscribe, rate, and write a review for our show on iTunes, and share our show with family, friends, and your network. If you're not a subscriber to our newsletter, you can sign up for our newsletter at cashflowninja.com. I want to thank you for spending your most precious resource with me today, your time. Until next time, my friend, live a life of passion and purpose on your terms. This presentation is for educational and informational purposes only. The information being presented and considered does not consider your particular financial objectives or situation, and it does not make personalized recommendations. This material is not intended to replace the advice of a qualified tax and legal advisor or other qualified professionals, and you should not use the information in place of a customized consultation with a licensed professional regarding your specific personal financial objectives, situation, and needs. We believe the information provided is reliable, but we do not guarantee its accuracy, timeliness, or completeness.